What a beautiful day at the lake. It's fairly early in the morning. About to get out and do some fishing. As you can see, there's a nice mist over the water. It's a glassy calm. Perfect. Can't wait to get out there. On beautiful, glassy calm mornings like this, it's pretty easy to catch fish. This was the first fish of the day. Probably caught it within 5 minutes of being out on the water. It wasn't very large, and I apologize in advance for the camera work. I had a head mount on, and if you've ever used a head mount, you know it's very difficult to know where exactly you're aiming, so I was a little off in some of the shots, but at least you get to see the fish a little. He wasn't very big, so I put him back. Second fish of the day. I'm using a technique here where basically I cast out. I've got a fluke on a jig head. I let it sink down a little bit, and then I basically straight reel, but then every once in a while I'll give it a twitch, just to give it some action. And the bass loved it. These are smallmouth bass, pretty common in the lakes around here. These lakes used to have trout, but these guys in the Pickerel have completely devoured them. So both of these are actually legal size, the two that I just caught, this one and the first one, but when I look at them for the size of the fillets, and if they're going to be too much hassle to fillet, I don't worry about it. I put them back. Not a bad little fish. Another technique I use while I'm fishing in the kayak is basically just trolling. I'll cast it out and I'll let it drag behind the boat while I paddle, and that does draw in quite a few fish. This time I was just doing that technique I was talking about, where I cast it out, reel it, every once in a while give it a twitch. Gives the bait some action. That feeling when the bait stops going where you want it to go, it's gratifying. This is a chain pickerel. These are also common in our lakes. And they're nasty buggers. And they can get pretty big. I have actually caught some that were about 24 inches, which is pretty good. It's like a 2-foot long fish. I know I've heard of people catching 35 inches, but I've yet to see evidence of that. But the teeth on these guys, nasty stuff. I tried to show you here, but my camera wasn't aimed properly. But yeah, nasty teeth. They can take a big chunk out of you, and they will destroy your leaders, your line. I actually did lose a lure to one of these later in the day. They're edible, but they have a lot of bones, so they're kind of a hassle. I usually don't keep them. Day is starting to brighten up a little. And another fish. But again, poorly aimed camera. Sorry. I did lose a few. You know, it happens. But it's still satisfying to catch them, to bring them in, and oh, there he goes. That happens. That was a pickerel too, a fairly large one. This is trolling, so I'm just paddling along. The lure's dangling behind the boat, probably about, I don't know, 40 feet or so. And all of a sudden it stops moving, and you know you got something. Even when you don't land them, you know, a bad day fishing is still better than any other day ever. Fishing is awesome. Oh, there he goes. This one took the line, the leader, and everything. That was another pickerel, I believe. There's another one. Big jump out of the water and off the hook. That was a bass. Just trolling along here. Troll it all. Oh, here we go. Check that guy out. Jumping way back there. Woo! I was pretty excited when I saw that because he's hefty. And he feels like a big fish. So I tried to get a little bit of underwater footage. The camera is in a waterproof case, but it steams up really quick when you get it under the water. Alright, let's go. Let's go down. Blub. There he is. Alright, so I've been fishing for a couple of hours now. Having a lot of fun, caught a few things. This is my latest. He's a brute. Biggest one I've seen today anyway. I have caught an 18-inch one here, but not a bad little smallmouth. Now to take him home and cook him up for supper. 16 inches, not too bad, and very delicious. So my old apple trees here have been dropping apples for the last couple of weeks. They're all around here. So I'm picking up all the ones that have fallen off the ground. Onto the ground, sorry. The ones that are still up in the tree I'm leaving for now to ripen. I may be able to make pectin out of them. They're not exactly eating apples though. But I am collecting all of these apples because I want to put them at my tree stand for the deer. So I'm putting them in an old feed bag here for the chickens, and I'll bring them out to the deer stand so that I can put them under the apple tree there and hopefully fool some deer. Alright, so I have piled up a few of my apples, spread them around a little bit. What I'm going to do is take some of the apples and put them in the lower branches of this tree. This is a natural apple tree, but it has no apples. It's probably really old and spent. But if I put some of these apples on the tree, it will give the illusion of being a real productive apple tree. Hopefully it'll be enough to, fool the deer into thinking, hey, apple tree. But we'll have to wait and see. Alright, so I'll stick a few up on these branches, and I'll be right back. Alright, so now we have a real apple tree. Yep, we've got a few apples up, so hopefully in a few days I'll come back and take a look and see if any of these have bite marks or if there's a bunch missing. I also put 2 garden carrots in there. We'll see if they're gone. That'll be a very good sign if that's the case.